Hey guys, how's it going? This is Steve here, and I'm going to try to make my wife another stirring spoon here out of this piece of cedar. This is her normal spoon that we bought at the store, and I'm going to try to best replicate that as I can using pretty much only this Gransfors Bruk Swedish carving axe. So what I'll usually do is just kind of pencil it out, just to kind of get a general idea of the shape that I want. And it's never going to turn out perfectly. I mean, honestly, it's bushcraft, not Williams Sonoma craft. You know, you're not going for perfection like you would at a store. You want it to look handmade, and so that's what we're going to do. I've basically drawn out the outline. It's really difficult to see on there because the cedar's pretty dark, but anyway, this is just some old leftover cedar that we've had from a few projects, and we're gonna see what we can make out of it using this sweet axe. That's my birthday present, and I've been Mr. Crafty ever since. So let's see how it goes. Alright, first and foremost, we need to sharpen our axe. And this is a Spyderco Sharp Maker. And as all we do is keep the axe parallel. And press down and through towards ourselves here. A lot of people ask what these are for. These are to protect your hand in case the axe slips or the knife slips. It hits this and not your hand. So we'll just give it a few swipes like that. At the corner, I flip these to the flats. These are triangles. I don't know if you can see that, but when you first start out, you use the point and it cuts faster on the blade, but rougher, and then you put it to the flat, and then it gives you that nice, more polished edge. These are the medium stones. Just give it a few swipes there. And then I'll switch to the ceramic stones. And these will actually put the final polish on the edge. It doesn't take much on these. These are really, really fine stones. That feels about right. And then we do the shaving test. Don't try this at home. Absolutely hair shaving sharp, and that's what you have to have. The only safe tool is a sharp tool. If you don't have a sharp tool, it's going to glance, it's going to hit your leg. We have to remember the most dangerous woodsman tool, craftsman tool, anything is the axe. It's just got absolutely devastating abilities. That's why it was so popular on the battlefield, but you have to really be careful with it. Let's move over to the wood block here and start carving. Alright, here we are at my wood block. You always want to make sure that you have a good stump to work with, because if I'm making a cut, it's going to go into the wood block and not into my shin. And yeah, so keep that in mind. Alright, always keep your sheath on your axe until you're ready to actually cut. And basically what we have to do is we've got to find the spoon. Alright, so we're going to start making some big cuts just to get away a lot of this extra material, because the spoon is only here to here. And so we'll just start cutting. If you're jealous of my tank top, you can find it at Walmart, I believe, so just in case you want one of these sweet tank tops here. All right. So here we go. And we're going to cut over on this side again. So if we miss, it's going to hit here. If you cut right here and you miss, it's going to go into your shin and probably split you wide open. So here we go. And on these first cuts where I'm moving a lot of material, I'm going to go back on the axe back here. And when I start making finer cuts, I'll move up, choke up on the axe. And you can see there's even a little finger choil right there. So here we go. Okay. And again, we're just removing a lot of material right now. Smell that cedar. I love that smell. It's incredible. See, I'm kind of holding the wood sideways like this, so I'm coming more vertical with the axe. Now I am turning it slightly and so forth once in a while, but you don't want to go up and down like this, because then you have to go sideways again. Could be very dangerous if you hit this way. And that's on the side. So what I'm going to do now is kind of start taking off some here. Some on the back. There we go. And again, our spoon is still here, so we've got a little bit more material to move. I'm going to turn the camera off and get this whittled down a little bit more. But that's how we start. You just start removing material. So I'm going to turn the camera off, whittle a little bit more, and come back when we've got a rough shape. Alright guys, I forgot to mention one thing, so I want to bring this back. Especially when you're using an axe and doing carving, you want to work with the grain. What that means is that you want to move into the grain, if that makes sense. If you go like this, you have the chance of splitting it. Like in one swipe, if I put this over here, I could hit right here and it would split all the way down. That's not what you want. You want to move with the grain. So see, if I carve this way, see, it's not chipping out, it's a smooth edge. And because I've got enough material here, if I move this way, you can see how it's wanting to chip out. So you got to move with the grain like this, and you can see it's really smooth there. And again, you can see just how razor sharp this axe is. You want to move with the grain like that. Even when you're chopping, you want to move with the grain. So that's one other tip I wanted to mention. I'll get hacking away on this again and come back when we've got a shape. All right. Alright guys, we're back. I got some of it whittled down, and honestly, it's really difficult to see on this cedar. I'm actually going to employ a Sharpie here to do a new outline on this guy. And again, we're just getting a rough shape. If you want to buy a perfectly formed spoon, then go go to Williams-Sonoma in North Park and pay $20 or $30 for it, which is cool. You can do that. But I definitely like to do this now that I kind of have gotten into this hobby. And each one is unique and different, and it's kind of cool. So anyway, you can see the outline of the spoon much better now. There we go. Much easier to see. But we've got full thickness here. I did want to show you a couple things about carving and how to do the basics here when it comes to kind of a little bit of this finer work. Instead of just hacking away, what we're going to do is I'm going to make little kind of mini cuts. Again, I'm going to choke up now that I'm doing finer work. You do mini cuts like this, and then chop down. You see those big pieces of wood just fall right off. So mini cuts, and then chop down. Okay. Mini cuts and chop down. You see how the axe catches those little chops that you make, and also it stops the grain. If I go like this and then like this, it's going to catch pretty much only how deep I chopped into it. If you make huge chops, or if you start all the way up here, it could split all the way down. So that's just a couple little techniques there. Again, on this side, same thing. Just make little chops and then shave it off. I can probably go a little bit more aggressive, but I'm just showing the technique there. So little chops and then shave down like that. And again, I don't want to chop this way, because the grain, if I chop up here, the grain goes right there. That's where my stirring spoon is, right there. So if I chop there, I have a danger of actually splitting that piece of wood there. Also, the other thing to consider as far as splitting up here or working up here is watch your hand. I wouldn't work higher than about 2/3 of the way up. It's just a safety thing, obviously. I gotta have my hands, you know what I mean. Alright, so I'm gonna go to a little more time lapse and just clean up a little bit more of this, and then we'll come back. Alright, here we go. And so I'm looking a little bit more like a spoon now. You know, got the very rough shape of it there. And now I'm going to have to trim some off the back. And it's a really nice grain on that cedar. You can see how that's going pretty straight there, so it shouldn't be too bad. There is one little knot right here, but I'll be able to knock that out pretty quickly. Again, we want to do on these corners, it's kind of easy to do those little chops. Like I want to get that knot out, so I'm just going to go up to it and then chop down. And you can feel it when you hit a knot. You can really feel it. It's so much, you know, such harder wood there. But there's that knot now. It's gone, and we'll work that out as we go. Now you can see this is pretty rough here, like real ridged, and what I'll do eventually is I'll kind of feather that out like that, but I want to keep that outline there. Well, I cut a little bit out there, but yeah, so we just want that outline to stay there. So So I'll clean that up as well. So let's clean up some more of this. And another good technique for removing wood too is you can actually, if you're not comfortable chopping as much, especially like when you get up top here, you can always hold the axe and the wood and hit the wood against that, and then you don't have to worry about doing a downstroke. Just the inertia, there's your $10 word for the day, your inertia behind the weight of the axe, this weighs about 2 pounds on the head, which is pretty heavy for a small axe, will take care of a lot of that. So again, you can just make your little cuts and then hit it like that and it'll pop out. And that's mainly just for removing large pieces of wood. That's getting pretty smooth there. And going from the edges is really nice too. Like that, you can see it's starting to round that off. And even though we're a little ways away from getting the final profile, I mean, if you, other than the point there, which I'll cut off, you would say that looks kind of like a spoon or something like that. Just kind of getting there, one little piece at a time. Remember, you can always take away more, but you can't put it back, so you got to be a little bit careful with it. Especially here, look, I'm going to start doing this, getting in here a little closer. You can see that outline, like I'm getting pretty close to it. Still got a little ways to go, but you just want to be careful. Do my little cuts. And this is a really dry piece of cedar. Honestly, it's best to use wet wood because it will not chip out on you. But you know, I'm just going off of what I have in my garage, which is this dried cedar. I mean, it's still good carving wood, but if it's wet and still has sap in it, it's obviously going to work a lot better and cut a lot easier. So anyway, now I'm just going to do what I call a push cut, and this is where you basically just put it on your anvil or your stump or whatever you want to call it, and you just push like that. And that's really good for fine work. I'll do a little bit more as we get to the end of it, but anyway, we'll go back to time lapse again and do a little bit more. And then when we get right here, this area here, kind of the neck of the spoon, I'm going to show you a little trick on that here in just a little bit. We'll go back to time lapse and I'm going to clear out a little bit more of this. Alright guys, now I've got quite a bit more material removed there. Down here at the bottom, you basically just come in, and it doesn't have to be real pretty because we're going to clean all that up here. But There's a couple tricks to doing this part here, and one of them is called making a safety cut. And basically what you do is, first of all, you put your sheath on your axe like that, set it aside, and then you can take a saw and basically just make a cut. If the saw would cut, here we go. Doesn't want to behave. Here we go. There you go. Well, spoke too soon, never mind. Okay, but basically we made a cut in here. Now if I come down here, any of this is just going to chip out at this point instead of chipping out the whole spoon. So I'm going to do another one on this side here. Maybe this one will work better, maybe not. Guess not. Don't need to go too far anyway. It's just a little bit of a safety thing, just so you don't chip out the whole thing. Especially when using dry wood like this, you don't. It's not very forgiving, so. There we go. So I just made those two little cuts there. I've got a little bit more there, but a lot of that I'll probably be taking off with actually whittling, probably with a knife or something like that. So anyway, so we'll get the more of this shape going here. Take our sheath off, test your edge, still good. Okay, and then now I'm going to be real careful. I'm going to kind of do my little tap cuts there and see how that chipped out right there. It chipped out just perfectly. That's exactly what we wanted. There we go. Okay, let's go this way. Now I'm going to choke way up. And especially if you look down like this, you can really see the grain and where your cut's going to go. So make sure you just keep an eye on it. Now the grain on this side is going kind of like this, right along where that is, so I'm hoping we're good there. So I'm going to do it like this, and you should see that chip out right where I made that saw cut. Boom, just like that. Alright. Do a little tap cuts. Bump cuts, whatever you want to call them. Alright, so we're getting real close there. And then up here, this is where you got to be a little careful because you are getting close to your hands, but just put your hand on the other side. And then just start making little tiny cuts like that. Like that. We're getting our basic shape there. Same thing on this side. And see that little saw cut helped us out there too. It kind of chipped out there. Here's a little piece. And that little saw cut helped us out there too. So let me whittle a little bit more on this guy. We'll get back to it. Alright guys, we're back and definitely looking like a spoon. Very rough, but we're looking like a spoon. Forgive my dogs for barking. Chewie and Gandalf, be quiet. There you go. Alright. I let them have it. Alright. So basically what I'm doing here is I've got a lot of extra material here, and see how I'm using those bump cuts to take out a bunch. We're still got a ways to go, but those really take care of a lot of that. You see how that actually just gets those really nice, just those paper thin shavings off of there, and that stuff's killer firewood, kindling for starting fires and stuff too, so I always save that. In fact, we just did a fire out back this morning, my wife and I, and drank our coffee, and I used wood chips from the last spoon that I did. Okay, so we're getting real close. And on these end pieces, I just kind of chop like that. Do a lot of this heavier chopping here when it's thick, because you don't want to risk cracking that with it when it's really thin. So come over here and work down. Again, remember, work away from the grain. And there's our outline again. You can see we're getting real close. And this is where a lot of people stop and they use a knife. And I do, obviously I'm going to use a little bit of a knife work on this thing to kind of clean it up. But anyway, so there's that. I think my wife is calling. Hold on. All right, guys, I'm back. That was my wife. You got to answer those. Happy wife, happy life. Truer words were never spoken. Anyway, she's actually been kind of enjoying this new hobby, because everything I've been making has been for her. My mom also wants one of these stirring spoons. And again, this is a stirring spoon. This is not a spoon where we're going to be using an adze or like a curved knife or anything to scoop it out. This is just a flat stirring spoon. I don't know where that other one went that I used this as a pattern, but basically this is just to stir, chili or beans or what other things that you need to stir. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try to tilt toward the camera here, but we're getting really close. There we go. And I got right on the line there, and that's fine. I mean, again, you know, we're not going for absolute perfection. We're going for old world chic. There you go. That's what we're going for. But see, I'm basically right on the line. Well, maybe a little over the line, but you know, whatever. I like to do as much with the axe as possible. It's so much, you can remove so much more material with the axe because you have that, you know, you have that heavy blade, and you just can't replicate that in a knife. It takes about 10 times more energy to use a knife than it does an axe. Well, different energy. An axe, it's more about lifting it every time. A knife, it's about having to muscle through the material. With an axe, even this is so easy because once I start that motion, it just goes right through. And always make sure when you're carving, you keep your fingers, never carve like this, always carve like this, alright? Unless you don't like to have fingers. Alright, so here we go. Just doing a final little carve on this side. And I'm just going to kind of get those little feathers out of there. Alright, like that. And there we go. This side I can do a little bit more, possibly. I got to take some meat out of the back here still. It's still a little bit thick. Always remember, you can always take more out. You can't ever put it back. So, all right. See how that action is just really those nice strokes, just choking up on the axe there. It's really nice. Yeah, Gransfors Bruk, man. These are made in Sweden. This guy, Anders Stromwalt or something like that, makes this one. I have another, this is my other axe here. You get it? This is my small forest axe. I'll put this one down. This is a forestry axe. You can see a much different shape. Just a little straighter blade. And this is for actual the felling of trees, and works great around the camp. But if you look at it, see the letters AS, that's Anders. He is the guy that, or one of the forgers at the Gransfors Bruk shop. So anytime you buy an axe, you can, if they have a selection of them, you can actually choose the forger that you want. So I'm gonna, if I ever get any more of these, I'm gonna try to find one that's made by the same guy, and so I could have a whole set made by the same guy, which is kind of cool. Anyway, but absolutely fantastic axes. They're expensive, but if you buy quality, you only buy once. If you keep buying junk, you're going to buy it over and over again and spend way more money. In the long run. Okay, so I'm going to thin this out. And this is where the curved blade comes in handy, because this is kind of a flat surface. So I can get right in the middle, just like that. It's only going to take out what the blade is touching. And then shave down like that. Watch my fingers here, and I'm actually going to do the drop cut here. There we go. Chipped out a nice big piece there. And if you're unsure if the grain's going to actually chip all the way down, you can turn the axe and kind of break it out there. If you're not sure where the grain's going to go, that one would have been fine, but that's always something you can do too. You can always twist out like that. see we're getting right down to it. You can see what a nice big wide piece that was that broke off there. So we're kind of getting down to where it's pretty flat. I'm going to keep doing my little bump cuts. Okay. And right here you can still see those little saw marks that I made right there. So I'm going to go clean those up. Come to this side, and it's going to work really carefully there. And you can see how if I went too far this way, it would want to chip out. So just really tiny little cuts. Because all I'm doing with my hand there is going like this, really just barely doing anything there. Kind of want to round this out on the back, and I like a thicker handle on my spoon. You know, when you're dealing with fence posts and stuff like that, like I do, it's a little bit unpredictable. So I mean, let's face it, any raw material like wood is unpredictable, but there's nothing wrong with having a little bit thicker handle than you think you need. Okay. And then here, this is where it's going to get a little tricky. There we go. See, I got right up to that line with just that little bump cut. This one's going to be a little bit tricky too, because you see that little swell right there. So what I'm going to do is find the grain, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I'm just going to get right there. Couple little bump cuts to get right up to it. Boom. Just like that. Perfect. All right. And honestly, I mean, other than this part here, we're pretty much there. I'm going to thin a little bit more of this back out, but you can see that we're nice and straight. And what I'm going to show you here, since we already basically have our shape, is I'm going to actually shave off some of this top portion here. There's two ways you can do it. You can hold it like that, just in your hand, and that's fine, but I really prefer to do this. And I actually use my thumb. See how I use my thumb to kind of press on the back, like that. And see how that's kind of leveling it out there. You want to kind of get that smooth grain texture. So use my thumb again. And that kind of chipped out a little bit there, but I think we're okay. You're just kind of smoothing everything out. And you can actually even see on the end of the axe there, you can see how it's little pieces coming out. It's not all one smooth piece. So we're just taking out the peaks a little bit, like that. I'm going to do a little bit here. Again, I'm just doing those little bump cuts wherever I need to. I mean, you can just barely see the outline there. It's really close, and from that huge piece we started with, that's pretty cool. It's pretty rewarding to see that. To find the spoon, there is a spoon. It's in the fence post. You just gotta axe it out. Alright, so we're getting that kind of smoothed out. And I kind of like that look where it's got a little bit of ridges to it and stuff. It's really, you know, again, we're doing farm chic. We're not doing, you know, we're not making something in a factory here. And I probably will do a little bit of sanding on this, honestly, since we are going to use it for food prep. You know, I know some guys are like, don't never sand, but when you're doing it for food prep, I would say you can use a little bit of a cheat, just for the simple fact you don't want splinters in your food, unless you're a woodchuck or something like that. But just gonna get up here and shave that down. Use those little press cuts there. And it's pretty amazing to feel, even on this really dry piece of wood, it's amazing to feel that edge just bite in. Like I said at the beginning, a sharp tool is a safe tool in the right hands and used appropriately. Okay, so there we go. And you can see how I've kind of thinned out this handle here. You can see that. I'm going to do a little bit more thinning out here. Just like that. Do a little whittling. Okay. And I'm going to come in here and just thin this area out a little bit more. And this grain is really my friend today. It seems to be behaving. Thinning it out. Yep, there we go. Okay. That one. There we go. I think back when the pioneers, is all they had was raw materials, and this is how they made their stuff. And honestly, back then, that would be probably a highly sought after utensil. I mean, it's definitely utilitarian at this point, but it'll work. All right, I'm just gonna form that edge a little bit more on that spoon. See what I do there is I cut it, I kind of put it on the anvil. Trim it down, and what I actually want is, I don't want a point necessarily on it, but I do want a taper, a slight taper. So there's a few ways that you can do that. You can just carve it like this, which actually seems to be working out pretty well. Start carving that taper in there, or you can actually do it this way, make your little cuts. And taper it that way. You can see it's starting to taper just a touch. And actually, if I come to the side and hone in those sides like that, starting to take shape. Do another bump cut here. This is still a little bit thick right through here. Okay. Always check your work. Make sure that you're doing what you want to do. And again, always make sure where your fingers are. See, there's no way I can get to my fingers, okay? Got a little bit more there, a little bit more there. And really delicately on that neck. That's what I call the neck of the spoon. I guess that's the right term for it. Right where the handle meets the actual stirring portion of it. It gets a little touchy. I can tell it's wanting to chip out just a little bit, so, but it's right on that line there. Okay. Just thin it out a little bit more. I mean, just go as you go. And you can take this as far as you want to go, but you know, it's just like a song. It's never completed, just abandoned. You know, it's never complete. There's always something more you can do. There's always another little thing you can do, and it's just how it is. I just caught myself with a little splinter there, right on my thumb. Little war wound. So, was not the axe blade, was the wood. So that'll definitely happen to you. You gotta just wear protective gloves if you want, or have some band-aids ready. But I'm not real concerned about it. Okay. All right. You can see at the top we're a little off there. As far as this side's got more taper than this side, so I'm just gonna taper that out here. And again, it's not gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be perfect, but just like with music, perfection doesn't mean good. It just means perfection. Sometimes perfection is boring. Anyway, let me whittle on this a little bit more and I'll get back with you. Alright, we're back. And here's the one that I started with. Here is the template. That's where we're at. We've come a long way, huh? So it's pretty cool. I got a little first aid on my thumb from where I hit that splinter. I think it was this one or this one over here, but I mean, hey, it's gonna happen. It's just how it is. Alright. And the spoon is a little bit lopsided on this side, so I'm gonna even that out just a touch. It's kind of got a little twist to it. There we go. And it's a little fat right in here on this side. Come in here and do a bump cut like that. Alright. Clean that up a little bit more there. You know what? Other than the sanding, I think I'm going to do all this one with the axe. I'm not going to use a knife on it. This baby's sharp enough. It basically is a knife. So. And there's no reason that your axe should not be absolutely as sharp as possible. It's much easier to move material when it is. You see how that's just shaving off? And honestly, I really like that. It just feels great to do a push cut like that and just kind of shave all that off. All right, it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to taper this just a touch. Give it a tapered edge there. Taper this edge. Taper that edge a little bit. By tapering the edge, I just mean we're kind of rounding it just a touch. And it's got a few kind of rough spots there, so I'm going to just whittle that down. And the way I found it works best to do that whittling is just kind of like this, kind of like you're shaving it across the grain like that. Looks pretty good. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. Yeah. And I'm just getting those paper thin shavings off of that, so that's just working beautifully. You know what? I actually may make this the front of the spoon. I actually may make this the front of the spoon here. That's what I think it wants. It wants to be the front right here. And again, this is a pretty flat spoon. It's a pretty flat stirring spoon. Sorry, my dogs are playing in the background. You can hear them. That's actually them playing, not fighting, which sounds like a dog fight, but it's not. Alright. So I'm just trimming those sides up a little bit. That end grain's a little tricky, but if you've got a sharp knife or axe, you can deal with it, just like that. Alright, there's that. And you can see we're a little thick through here. You can always trim it up a little bit. It's just at this point, you got to be really careful. You spent a long time on it and you don't want to ruin it. And that's the thing about this craft, is that you can ruin something in 2 seconds that took you an hour to do. And I don't know how long this has taken. I haven't been timing it. But yeah, so there we go. And this here, I just want to carve just a touch of this, using a thumb push cut there to get it started. And I'm just gonna kind of give the old tap tap taparoo there. There we go. All right, looks like a stirring spoon to me. Keep going a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit more kind of this type of carving here, and then we'll pretty much be done. And again, like I said, I am gonna cheat just a touch and sand it, and that's simply for safety, because we do use these for actually stirring food, and so that's. To all you hardcore bushcrafters out there, forgive me. Alright. Thin this out just a touch more. There we go. This on the top. There we go. You know what? I think I'm gonna call that a spoon. And since I am gonna sand it, I'm not gonna do any whittling on it with a knife. When I do whittle, I use this. This is a Mora. These are out of Sweden, yeah, just like the axe, and these are about 15 bucks on eBay, and really good little knife for 15 bucks. So anyway, there we go. Stirring spoon from a stump. All right. All right, guys, and here we go. I went ahead and sanded it, and it looks good. You know, it's feels good. It feels really solid. I mean, it's cedar, of course, is a really strong wood, but feels good. And you know, I want a few of those little axe marks on there. You know, I want it to look like it was done in the woods, in the bush. It's bushcraft. I mean, after all, you know, that's what we're going after. It's kind of that old world look. And I've seen guys on YouTube and stuff make these, and they look like a work of art. I mean, they're absolutely incredible, and they find some amazing woods, and are really able to get some crazy detail on them. I will say this, those guys typically have about a decade more experience than I do, and the other thing with that is that typically they're using freshly felled wood, which is much easier to work with, and especially when it comes to the fine carving, does not chip out like this wood does. So you can't get too fine with this really dry wood, but you can see there that it's looking pretty good and pretty darn straight. And anyway, that's it.